After all that awkwardness, I went to the grand hall knowing Sarah would either be there expecting me or would arrive there shortly after me. Nevertheless, I was ready to train again with him. What I didn't expect was seeing Sarah and Diana in the room. I quickly ducked back around the corner and listened, not wanting to disturb them if they were talking.
That damn little... How dare she...
Go on.
My lady, please, calm down.
Wait, what? What was going on?
No, Zero, it is not all right. That selfish brat had the nerve to...
Zaire, please. I'm all right, I swear.
Did I do something? Oh no.
Stop talking and let me finish.
Diana's harsh tone echoed through the hall out of the doorway before a soft sigh followed. I peered around the corner and watched as Diana ran her hand along Sarah's cheek gingerly, tracing a mark on it with her fingers. Radiant purple light emanated from her hands as Diana glided it back and forth over Sarah's skin. Sarah, however, had a small smile painted over his lips as he watched her work.
Damn her to the deepest pits of hell.
You're being too harsh, my lady.
Buskaya is being a selfish brat, Zero. I saved her from dying, and this is how she repays me? Ungrateful little...
Buskaya? Who's that? I didn't understand what was happening, but I could tell there was another woman involved, someone named Buskaya. What was really odd was that Diana was acting strange. She was upset over something a girl did to Sarah. It was kind of cute, but it was not what I expected from Diana.
You're being adorable right now.
Called out. Diana suddenly stopped moving and looked up at Sarah in surprise. A large blush splashed across her cheeks. Sarah, growing bolder, gently lifted a hand up between them and placed it under her chin, lifting her head slightly.
I promise that I'm all right. She barely scratched me.
But she...
Loves her mistress very much, just like I do. She couldn't help it. I did try to surprise you, after all. She was startled and wanted to protect you, just like I would have.
I see. Diana grumbled, pressing her lips into a fine line as she stared down at his chest.
She still attacked you.
Which I'm sure she's very sorry for. Let it go.
Poor Diana, what a day. First, her bodyguard attacks Sarah, her other bodyguard, and then me and Matthew are having a pillow fight, and then he attacks Diana thinking she's an attacker. It's just terrible. See, your own bodyguard didn't think you were safe, and you're like, I would have killed anyone that came into the castle within seconds, madame. So you need to chill out, girl. Sarah moved his hand to cup Diana's cheek, rubbing his thumb along her cheekbone. Diana closed her eyes, but didn't lean into his hand.
You know, you didn't yell at me for saying your name.
My priority was not correcting you.
Hey.
You were concerned about me.
Yes, I was. Why wouldn't I be?
Sarah frowned a bit as Diana opened her eyes and looked up at him, trying to appear unfazed at his teasing. However, the blush that still radiated from her face didn't lie.
Why are you concerned about me, Zaire? You've protected me my whole life when it's my job to protect you. You didn't correct me again.
Uh-oh. Silence followed as Sarah waited for her to answer. I was curious myself, especially since she seemed to not reciprocate Sarah's feelings. Oh, come on now. Diana closed her eyes and took a small breath before finally replying.
I care about you, Zero. You've been by my side ever since we were mere children. Every time you've gotten hurt, I
watched in awe as Diana brought her hand up and ran her fingers along the scar on his chest between the lapels of his jacket. Sarah stared as Diana traced around it, her face painted in sadness.
I know you vowed to protect me with your life, but that doesn't mean you must accept every wound on your body as insignificant.
Diana closed her eyes, forming a fist against Sarah's chest and clenching it hard. The scar must have had some significance to make her that upset. Did he save her life by getting impaled somewhere? I wonder. I bit my lower lip. I was watching this unfold, unsure of what to do. Should I leave them be? Should I interrupt? I have to train, guys. Let them finish. Don't want to be rude. Whatever they had to settle, I needed to be patient. I stuck close to the wall behind me and listened further, peeking to barely see what was going on.
It still bothers me. I thought I was going to lose you that day.
But you stepped in.
I did. That was the day before you signed your life away to me. A stupid decision.
I stared wide-eyed as Sarah cupped Diana's cheek and forced her to look up at him, making her gasp and meet his gaze in surprise.
Stop. I won't let you think that my decision was a mistake.
Diana closed her eyes and leaned her cheek ever so slightly against Sarah's hand, making him visibly inhale a breath of surprise. Progress has been made.
I don't think I will ever understand you. Even after all of these years, I still don't understand your devotion.
I love you. I've said it for years. Never mind. Diana let out a small sigh before stepping away and looking up at Sarah with a serious expression.
I should go. The boys will be waiting for me to train them, and your student will be here soon.
Without letting Sarah reply, Diana turned and walked towards the door. I stepped away from my hiding spot, not wanting Diana to know I was eavesdropping. As I came into her view, she froze for a second before continuing on out of the room and down the hall. Sarah watched as she left, staring at the back of her head until it vanished beyond the doorframe. I looked over and finally walked towards Sarah, not wanting to interrupt his gaze with my presence.
She really can't see it.
I will help you with all I can do, my man. Sarah. Sarah finally turned and looked at me with eyes drowned in hopelessness. It was almost heartbreaking to see his face so heavy and downtrodden. He seemed to have completely confided in me with this new expression because I was positive that this was an emotion he had very well from most everyone. It's like, you're a human, you understand. Sarah finally looked to the ground.
My lady doesn't understand love. She's always been told that love for her is impossible because of who she is, no matter how much she dreams of it. Because of that, she can't recognize it, even when it's standing right in front of her.
Oh, Sarah. That's her loss. There has to be a way. Trust me, I got together with her once in another alternate universe, so it's possible for you. It was a matter of circumstance. She needed to see his love for her. If she was bred to accept that love didn't exist, then we needed to prove that what she knew was wrong. Simple! Science! Sarah looked up at me in surprise, a small glimmer of hope rekindling at my words.
You really think that she...
I know she can. I mean, look at me. I'm going to be married to the man I love. Surely love exists, even for demons. I watched with a smile as I saw happiness slowly seep back into Sarah's expression. He couldn't give up on her. He would be able to show her his love somehow. After a brief moment, Sarah let out a sigh, closing his eyes. He turned to me, and when he opened his eyes, my relentless trainer had appeared with a serious look on his face. Without having to say anything to me, he stepped back and summoned his spear. That was a fast turnaround. Thought we were having a moment. Well, it's gone. He placed a foot behind him and prepped himself into a stance. Wait, wasn't he going to materialize my weapons? How was I... Sarah suddenly charged at me, making me screech and dodge out of the way. What was he doing? Sarah!
What are you waiting for? Summon your weapons!
Gosh darn you, Sarah. What? He wasn't being serious, right? He expected me to use magic? That was impossible. You just threw you into the deep end and said, swim, girl! As I managed to duck and dodge his attacks, my fingertips began to tingle. Energy rushed through my veins and under my skin, tickling my nerves. It was unnatural, but somehow I felt comfortable with it. Was this truly magic at work, or was I just nervous, not wanting to be skewered? Oh boy, time again. Try! You have to try! Always. I jumped away from Sarah and quickly closed my eyes, focusing on my hands. I needed my weapon. Within my hands formed two lavender orbs circling around my hands. They glistened before finally shifting and forming into the guitars I was used to. Gripping it and feeling it physically in my hand, I smirked and turned back to Sarah, bracing for another attack. Alright. Parry was good last time. Let's parry. I couldn't help but smirk as I stepped forward and practically backhanded his spear with the gauntlet of my guitar, making it bounce away from my body and leaving his own body open for attack again. Like a repeated memory, I attacked him, clashing my weapon with his multiple times. The chime of our weapons smashing against each other rang through the room, the sound almost piercing my mind. It wasn't a noise I was ever going to be used to. Like the last time, we trained for hours on end, stopping once or twice for a break. However, I could feel my body slowly getting used to the feel of swinging a weapon and defending myself. At least I would be prepared in case something were to happen. As the sun began to set and the purple sky began to darken, We stopped once again for a third and most likely final break. Sarah stretched and let out a small yawn as I did the same. I think I'm getting used to this. A chuckle escaped Sarah's throat as he rose from one of his stretches. What stopped both of us from laughing was an echoed conversation in the hall softly reverberating into the room. Huh?
Are you sure? Another kingdom wants to join the rebellion?
It would seem so. Diana isn't happy about it, though.
It's funny that they're still talking about her with her human name. Even, like, how do you know you're being eavesdropped on right now?
Why not? The leader of that kingdom is so handsome!
Oh, boy.
He was indeed, but an alliance through marriage?
Oh, no!
Oh, come on! You can't tell me I'm the only one who can see it! I can see them being a beautiful king and queen!
Hush, Faye.
I don't think she will marry him, despite it being a wise choice.
So she does still have feelings. She's starting to believe in love, man. She didn't go for the logical decision.
She would be stupid not to.
Well, the last time she signed her life away to marriage, her entire family was killed off while she was away. I don't think she could ever let marriage control her again.
I guess... Man, the only person she has now is that guard.
Wow, why you gotta say it like that, Faye? My curiosity took hold of me and caused me to hug the wall near the door, listening in further. Sarah, however, remained where he was, looking toward the ground.
I wonder how they met. He's not an incubus, but he's mega powerful.
He is indeed very skilled. I'm slightly jealous of her for having such a devoted guard.
Devoted? He's crazy!
Oh my.
I've heard them talk in private before. He keeps saying that he's in love with her. Love!
Oh, I just want to hug this poor guy.
That is very odd. However, I wouldn't be surprised if her natural aura has affected him after years of servitude. I believe he's been with her since they were children, so that's over 100 years of protecting her and being close.
Whew, man, you've been in that friend zone a while, my dude.
Yeah, he's probably just enthralled by her. She enthralls everyone she meets.
A pure-blooded succubus will do that. At least she's the only pure-blooded demon of Lilith in the world.
That we know of, at least.
The conversation trailed off as the pair moved away from the room, and I looked back at Sarah, seeing him grip his spear and grit his teeth. He didn't seem to like what Rabbit and Faye had to say. I don't blame him. Sarah? Are you okay? Eyebrows go up. Sarah looked up at me, a dull glaze over his eyes. From the expression on his face, I could tell that he had heard things like that before, but it still seemed to affect him emotionally. I frowned and walked over to him as he shook his head.
What they said about her marriage was true. When the Demon Lord's heirs left the demon world, my lady left to go after them. However, while she was gone, the Demon Lord attacked this castle.
I watched as Sarah gripped his spear even tighter than before, shutting his eyes and turning his head away from me almost in shame.
The Demon Lord's henchmen, the imp demons who brought you here, infiltrated our defenses and were able to reach the heart of the castle, where my lady's parents and unborn baby sister were hiding. Through some form of blood magic, they were able to break through the protective barriers around the room and...
He didn't need to explain. The heavy weight in my gut acknowledged what he was going to say before he could speak it. I looked to the floor, suddenly feeling very sorry for Diana. She lost her entire family while she had been in the human world trying to save them. It was too cruel. Sarah let out a shaky sigh before looking back up to me.
When my lady returned, she vowed to seek vengeance and destroy the Demon Lord's tyranny. She formed the rebellion, and now, here we are, readying ourselves for the final battle. Everyone only sees the hard-faced, cutthroat queen of the rebellion when they look at her, as if she were unable to love or care.
Sarah's hand reached up for his collar, where a beautiful purple rose charm hung. His fingers ran over the surface as he smiled to himself. I was wondering about that.
However, Isaiah is still the sweet and innocent girl I grew up with. She's still the woman who saved me and protected me from a fate worse than death. I know deep down that the love I feel for her is pure and true. I vowed to protect her with my life, and I will forever stand by that promise. It's just difficult to hope that one day things may change, and that the one you love may turn around and say they love you in return.
Now may not be the best time to hope for that. Is there any way to prove your love for her? Sarah, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. This, for sure, but I gotta be helpful here. Is there any way to prove your love for her? Sarah didn't reply. He looked at me, deep in thought before shaking his head. I thought I saw a glimmer of hope, but he rid himself of whatever thought he had been focusing on.
Never mind that. We need to focus. Let's continue.
I want to help you, though. I nodded, taking up my weapon again and preparing for our final sparring match. Man, that was a long training day. Learned a lot. Learned a lot about another couple. I slowly padded back to my room, tired from the day. I needed rest, and I needed the comfort of my bed and Matthew's arms around me. As I walked in, however, I took in a sight I did not expect to see. Oh no, not again. Whoa! Matthew held Simon in a full-body chokehold, crushing his body like a stress ball and glaring hard into his beady red eyes.
I'm gonna rip you apart!
What the heck, man? Matthew! I rushed in and grabbed Matthew's hands, prying them apart and letting Simon slip from between them onto the ground. Simon let out a squeak before running out of the room. Matthew, still for some reason enraged, took a step to follow him before I slammed my hand onto his shoulder.
Get back here!
Matthew, stop! I gripped hard on Matthew's shoulder, causing him to turn to me and letting me grab his other shoulder. As I got a good look at his eyes, I gasped at the sight. His eyes were full of rage and anger as he panted in place. Whatever Simon did really made him go off of the edge, or something was influencing him again. I suddenly became afraid, shaking underneath his gaze. Every fiber of my body completely began to spaz out as I became locked in his angry glare. What was happening to me? Oh, some kind of power, I guess. Whoops. I opened my mouth to try and speak, but not a sound would dare come out of my vocal cords. It was like I was too frightened to press him or stop him. As Matthew continued to pant for air and stare at me, something in his mind slowly melted, causing his eyes to slowly widen in realization at what he had done and what he was about to do to Simon. The strange hold on my body faded away as his muscles relaxed, trying to breathe and regain control of whatever had clouded his judgment. As it finally became apparent that he had returned to sanity, Matthew's eyes began to droop in sadness.
What am I doing?
Aw, poor Matt. I feel so bad. This is a nice kind of turnaround of sorts. Because, like, Angel's always been the one that's, like, been going through crazy shenanigans, and the guys are like, whoa, are you okay? Let me help you. But now we're watching stuff happen to Matthew, and we're the ones that had to keep being like, hey, it's okay, calm down. We gotta figure out what's wrong with you, and don't worry about it. Poor Matthew. Matthew pulled away from me, placing his hands between us, and stepped back, staring at me in deep regret. I tried to step forward to try and comfort him, but he raised a hand to stop me, walking slowly over to the bed and sitting down, grasping his head.
Something happened to me. I don't know what.
I frowned as I slowly moved and sat next to him. In shame, Matthew covered his face with his hands and curled over his knees, digging his fingers into his forehead.
I keep hearing my mother's voice telling me to come home and save her. Whenever I do, I completely lose control of myself. I can't remember what I did or why I did it, but I always manage to do something wrong.
Maybe we should finally talk to your brothers about this? I grimaced, remembering the random attack on Diana. I placed my hand on his shoulder as he shuddered and shook his head again.
I gotta fix this. There's gotta be some way to stop it from happening to me.
Matthew. It was painful to see him struggling. Still, I couldn't understand why he had to fight this alone. Why not go to the others for help? Matthew let out a sigh and slumped his shoulders further.
And let them help me? Like they've always done?
They're your brothers. As Matthew turned to me, I could practically see the shame in his eyes as he spoke.
Every time I was in trouble, they'd always come and help. Every time I do something, I'm treated like a damn kid.
Matthew turned his head away and gritted his teeth, forming fists and laying them on his knees, tightening them in aggravation.
There's a reason why I didn't ask them to help with the wedding. I don't want them babying me and doing everything like I'm some sort of stupid moron who needs everything done for him.
Oh, Matthew.
I want to do this on my own. I can figure this out without their help. I'm not even the youngest, but they still treat me like I am, even Damien. I don't want that anymore.
I was speechless. Did Matthew really feel that kind of pressure from his brothers? My mind went back to the first day I had met them. How Eric treated Matthew like a little boy, despite Matthew being close to his age. I mean, I don't know how much of it is they view him as... I mean, he is their little brother. And, you know, they just kind of got used to him being their little brother. And you have sibling banter where you're always, like, insulting each other because siblings do that. Oh, Matthew. It's okay. You need to talk to them about this, though. Then things would be better for all of you. As the grimace of realization appeared on my lips, Matthew let out a shaky sigh.
I can't ask for their help. I'm sorry.
Take his hand. I'll give him a hug. I felt terrible for Matthew. He definitely acted like a kid, but it seemed like only I remembered that he wasn't one. After all, I had been with this man for over 2 years of my life. I wrapped my arms around him, hugging me to him and making him gasp in surprise.
Uh-huh?
What? It's a hug. I buried my face in his shoulder, silently apologizing to him with a soft kiss on his neck. Slowly, Matthew wrapped his arms around me as well, taking in a breath and relaxing once more within my arms. A peaceful moment of silence passed between us before Matthew softly pulled away and looked me in the eyes.
I don't understand why you like me at all, you know?
What? Confused, I stared into Matthew's eyes, trying to find the origin of where his statement came from. Matthew, however, took my hands and grasped them in his, looking down at them.
I love you so much, but I'm not mature like James or the others. I don't understand at all how someone like me could be remotely likable.
You are a sweet cinnamon bun, Matthew. Stop. I glared, not wanting him to degrade himself. As he looked back up at me, he flinched at my stare, but I needed to get him to see that I loved him and cared for him, for every part of him. It didn't matter that he wasn't like his brothers. He was mine, and I loved him. I squeezed his hands, locking his gaze to mine. I love you for you, Matthew. I don't care what your brothers act like or how you're not like them. I don't care. I fell in love with you, not them. Even though it's taken me 4 routes to get to yours. Matthew remained silent, staring deep into my eyes and taking in everything that I was saying with a broken but hopeful gaze. He really cared about me and didn't want to hurt me, but I didn't want him to hurt either. Whatever this is, whatever thing is trying to control you, we'll fix this. But don't you dare degrade yourself like that. Give him a kiss. At last, I leaned forward and pressed my lips to his, locking his to mine in a loving kiss. Matthew stared wide-eyed before very slowly closing his eyes and melting into the lip lock. I wanted to show him how strong and wonderful he was. I fell in love with him not just for his childish side, but how he made me feel with every part of him. He was very much an adult when I was locked in his arms, and I drowned in his kisses constantly. I was so lucky to have him as mine, and I wanted to remind him of that with every part of me. Mind, body, and soul. Oh. So, the seduction music plays. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, but sure. I guess this would be a good time. I slowly slid my legs over his lap, straddling his hips, and made the kiss between us deeper, relishing in the feelings that were burning between us. Matthew slowly drew his hands up my sides and wrapped them around me, hugging me to his chest almost possessively, making me gasp against his lips. He was getting the idea, and I was happy that my message was clear enough to understand. He was mine, and I was his. We would support and hold on to each other forever, and nothing would separate us. My clothes were slowly stripped off of my body, Matthew taking his time and looking at every inch of my body as it became exposed. I would shyly show him, but happily allow him to indulge and ravish me as he desired if he craved it. A flash of gold passed over his eyes as he finally grasped the back of my neck and kissed me passionately. I couldn't help but moan against his lips, feeling his free hand dance around each curve of my body as his enthrallment slowly eased itself into my core, warming my soul in love and need. Oh, hello. I don't know why, but that face is making me laugh for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, it's like a kind of like a dead stare for whatever reason. Anyway, I couldn't stop myself from grinding against my incubus, needing him to undress himself and let us make love like I desired, like we both desired. Matthew slightly smirked against my lips before turning us over and staring at me with that stare.
You're so beautiful. You know that?
I felt my body warm at his words, making me distracted as Matthew began to run his hands all over my body, leaving no inch of skin unexplored and unconquered by his fingers or lips. I arched back, pressing my head back to the pillows beneath my head, and let out a loving sigh and moan with each pleasureful touch he placed on me. This was truly heaven. I was so lost that I barely noticed him stripping as well and hovering over me, finally allowing us to become one. As we did, the world around me became lost. I only could see Matthew, and he could only see me. We would become lost in each other's eyes as we wrapped each other in pleasure and love, climbing through our carnal ecstasy and chanting each other's name like two prayers in sweet harmony. My hands guided themselves around Matthew's body, feeling the slight sweat layered over his soft skin as I dragged my nails over his back. From the pleasurable hiss that erupted from him, I could tell that he enjoyed that and would pay back in kind. Our lovemaking soon became rapid and heated, unrelenting in its crescendo towards a beautiful and hot climax. We drove through it together, uncaring of who would hear our cries and screams of love before slowly easing into a gentle and feather-like afterglow. Matthew and I held on to each other, lost within the embrace between us and euphoric in our emotions. I was so happy to have him in my arms, causing me to pull him closer to me and cuddle against him. Matthew laughed a bit before kissing me softly and nuzzling my forehead with his. I love you, Matthew.
I love you too.
We remained there, taking in the sounds of our synchronized breathing and letting our hearts eventually beat as one. We would get through this. We would.